Welcome to the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast with your co-hosts Teague Fenwick and Steve Lurkwood.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. I'm your host, Teague Fenwick, coming to you from Holmen. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Steve Lurkwin. Steve, great to be here.
Always pumped to be here, man. Always, although it is a sad time of year, but it's a good time of year.
Yeah, it's that post-wrestling sadsies. They definitely kick in hard, especially on the drive home from Team State. But
it is rough, yeah.
Nonetheless, it was a fun weekend, man. Let me tell you.
I enjoyed it. This is my first time. I mean, I've gotten to call individual state before, but this is my first time calling Team State like that. That's a pretty neat experience.
Calling two really good duels at once is just an unenviable task. That's for sure.
It was hard.
But I'm glad we got to do it. We got to call a little D1 action together on Friday, so it was a good time. Yeah, that's commentary wise.
Oh,
it
sorry,
was fun. What's up?
There was dead silence there, and I felt like I should have added something. I had nothing. So
I waited for a second. It's okay. And Steve got to see a lot of good people again. And we'll be talking about some of the teams, but got some new team merch. Chaz Tremmel gave us a Luxembourg Casco shirt. Mike Kraus gave us 2 Germantown shirts and a Germantown bag as well. And then how can we forget, Steve? We'll see if we can make this happen. I'll put this up for the folks, but got some new Teague merch. Only 2 shirts in circulation, and they're both at my house. But if anyone would buy one of these shirts, just let me know. Remember, it does stem from like a Twitter troll, and I like totally am just buying into it at this point. So it does not hurt my feelings at all. And plus, the artwork on it's pretty sick. So. Steve, you want to advertise it for a second since I'll be away from the mic?
Oh, yeah. Well, you're a little bit – I get the wrong camera up, so it's a little bit – are you holding it up right now? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Now, you said you have 2 shirts, but was I supposed to take one or what? But homeless Teague, man. I tell you what, Teague looks like he's homeless. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And then what really got me, Teague, is when someone call you that you're as smart – what would you say is you're as dumb as a potato? That's the one that got
potato.
Me. That was the IQ of a potato. Oh, I was dying on that one. That person obviously does not know. I mean, now if they would have said that about me, it would have been a little bit, more right on. But saying you have the IQ of a potato was not. I don't know. I just got a good chuckle out of that one. But yeah, by the way, those shirts were made up. Teague's got them. So if anybody wants them, I guess we'll have to take a look at getting them out in circulation.
Yeah, if you want them, let us know. Yeah, also credit to RQ for the shirt idea. I won't have any stolen valor on that one. Yeah, that's what we got merch wise. And then Steve, it's just always nice, hanging out with Matt and Winnacomro Town coach Sean from Omro, and then hanging out the Wrightstown coaches as well. Got some B-dubs on Saturday. So
that's pretty sweet. Again, hey, Brad Cook saw me. Oh, Teague, and Brad Cook had the idea. He said you should make a shirt with homeless Teague with that one on. Some put Steve the Stilts or Steve with Stilts on or something like that.
Lurkwin. Yeah, that's.
Oh. Anyway, that's good.
Well, Steve, what do you say we talk some wrestling?
100%, because we're not doing very well at the other stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. I gotta get the Team State results pulled up here, but see, basically, same game plan. Just gonna talk about all the Division I duels, the D2 duels, and then the D3 duels in that order. We're just gonna take a moment to talk about all the teams, all the good matches that we saw, matches that might have swung things. When it comes to the champions, we're gonna give the champions a lot of love here in a few weeks. So, I mean, we plan on having the coaches on if they'll do us the honor, that is. We're basically going to be talking about all the championship seasons. So if we don't hit as much in depth on like the championship team seasons, then we'll probably be able to go more in depth on their matches at Team State and whatnot. We have Melissa Tassel tuning in, who shouting out, the Luxembourg Youth Program had a pretty good weekend. They had middle school and 3rd through 5th grade at Team State as well this weekend.
I was hoping you didn't see that, Teague. I saw Melissa's comment pop up, and that's part of my talk about Luxembourg. So now I got to wipe that from the record. There you go. Scratch that. Thanks a lot, Melissa.
Shout out Melissa for buying me Dippin' Dots as well, and introducing me to the nickname Luxie. So I don't know if I'm allowed to call Luxembourg Casco that, but it will forever be ingrained in my consciousness. So
only if you know the secret handshake can you use the word Luxie, Teague. I don't know it yet, but
we'll figure it out. Maybe Chaz will teach us. But Steve, D1 wrestling action, Division 1. Starting off here, the 1 versus the 8 seed, Kaukauna versus Waukesha West. And, I mean, I think one of the big stories from Friday was Kaukauna giving up a total of 10 points in both of their duels. And, Waukesha West, I think the one thing that impressed me was they did bump to try and get a win at 113. And, Steve, talking to the coach, we also saw him and the rest of the Waukesha West coaching staff at B-Dubs. You saw the bump in there. Didn't end up paying off for them, but they did get a win at 1-20. Kaukauna won 67-6, and Waukesha West laid it all out there. The coach did an interview with Jake, I believe, afterwards, and he was really proud of their kids' performances. And I think that's one thing you've noticed, Steve, whenever we talk about the 1-8 matchups. The 8 seed, they don't just go in and lay down. They leave it all out there. I think it just goes kind of like what we talked about on the preview show. I think this duel speaks more to how good Kaukauna is, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what you want. Is a team going to go out and battle? And that's what you want to see out of your kids. And I think the great news for Waukesha West is obviously, we talked a lot about this past weekend, but first trip to Team State since 1997, huge building block for their team. But Teague, something I'm going to be talking a lot about with a lot of these teams that did not bring home hardware is what they have returning. And Waukesha West has 22 kids returning, 9 freshmen and 7 sophomores. 3 of them are state qualifiers. So they are very heavy underclassmen loaded right now. So that bears well for them in their future.
And one of the matches, the highlight match that I talked about before, just to see how it would have gone, Liam Crook did beat Xander Kauakanen 12-0 at 160 pounds. Steve, I think there's another Kauakanen coming in for Waukesha West next year.
Yeah, nice.
All right, next duel up, the 4-5 matchup, Steve. How about this one? Muskego beats Germantown 36-33. Duel was not decided until 132, so came down to the second to last match. And the one thing I saw with this one is, 7-7 match-wise, Muskego just really poured on the bonus points. I don't think I gave them enough credit for bonus points that they could have earned in our predictions. Man, what a 4-5 duel.
Yeah, it was awesome. Kind of my head was tilting back and forth. I know we weren't necessarily calling that match. It's hard not to have your attention get drawn over there, and you got to keep yourself focused. But yeah, it was Germantown was up 18-5 after 5 matches, and then 28-15 after 9 matches, with Owen Becker's fall at 106. But then those 4 wins in a row by Madia, Zielinski, Shannon and Bronstetter. Obviously, JT sending the victory home for him. It was a really good match, Teague.
It was definitely one of those because we were commentating the other 2 duels, and you heard all the cheering, and it was just hard not to look over, even make commentary on it.
I know. Yeah, you keep slapping yourself. No, focus in front of you.
I mean, this duel even starting off with a couple of good matches. Rabidou beating Reed 9-7, and then Mikulski beating Derwachter 6-4. So Germantown got a couple of good swing wins to start the duel right away. But yeah, Muskego coming out victorious in that 4-5 matchup. The 3-6 matchup here, Steve. Marshfield McGuanago. Marshfield won 47-14. And like I was saying on the commentary, this was one of those where even though mathematically McGuanago was still in it, even by the end of 182, you just kind of had this feel that it was going to be Marshfield's duel to lose. And I'll talk more about it after the Bayport duel, but just the energy that Marshfield carried, you could tell they were not going to be satisfied until they made the finals.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Teague. And I tell you, but could this have started in a better place for Marshfield? Obviously, with their Hammers, they won the first 6 matches to go up 31-0, and then Ryan Major at 220 for McGuanago gave a little bit of hope to them with their decision. But I tell you, Teague, Adrian Kruger's pretty much sealed the deal at heavyweight, winning that 5-4 decision over Grant Stromberg, which really was a toss-up match that had to go McGuanago's way. And after that, it was pretty much over.
Yeah, Marshfield winning 47-14 to move on to the semis. And Steve, the 2-7 matchup, which may have it looked more like a 4-5 matchup than anything. Bayport beats Reedsburg 40-33. And man, what a duel. No team won more than 3 matches in a row. It was one of the quickest duels, a lot of pins in it, but it was still one of those, Steve, where there was drama during the matches with the pins as well to see if guys were going to make it the full distance. And Steve, it was one of those things where, and when I say breaks, when I talk about breaks in duels, I don't mean like a lucky break or something. It just means that wrestler came out. It seemed Bayport got a couple of those big, whether it be swing wins or whether it be getting more bonus points in spots. They got a couple of those, and again, another duel that came down to the second to last match. Steve, I really think at heavyweight, so Reedsburg just got 2 pins in a row at 95 and 220. They were winning 24-15. And man, their crowd and their sidelines were into, I got to quit saying sidelines. It's the football commentator and me. Their crowd and their team were into it. And Alex Ward and Isaac Henke were putting on a pretty good match. Warden ends up getting the pin. And it seemed like that was a match that really swung the momentum in favor of Bayport.
Yeah, that was a good match. I mean, I'm glad that we were calling it. Teague and I, people might scoff me for this one, but I think you said since they started doing the seeding, there has not been a number 7 seed that has won first round. I thought Reedsburg definitely could have been that team. And this is where I think people, I don't think I said this publicly, but I thought Reedsburg, if they would have gotten past Bayport, they would have had a shot. I thought they matched up well against Marshfield or McGuanago, but I think Reedsburg had that shot to be a number 7 seed and make it to the finals. And, obviously they didn't get there, but Reedsburg was up 29-15 at the halfway point, still up 33-31 with 2 matches to go. And like you said, Teague, they lost the second to last match with Noel, but here's the thing. Reedsburg is not losing a lot. They're losing a few wrestlers, but they're going to be upperclassmen heavy next year. So be looking for Reedsburg to make a return trip for next year.
Bringing back Mr. Jesus Gonzalez.
They sure are.
Yeah, among many for sure. But yes, a lot of their underclass, their light guys coming back too. Steve, I totally got to correct myself. It did come down to the last match, but it was one of those, I think Nick Shoemaker, basically, he just knew he had to not get pinned, essentially. So
right.
When he wrestled like that, 19-12 match in that last one there. All right, moving on.
Yeah, they're returning. Curtin and Gonzalez were both place winners. So those two are coming back for him as well.
Kaukauna Muskego. Kaukauna won 72-4 in this one. So if they didn't impress the first duel, which they obviously should have, this next one just crazy. And I think big win. It seemed like the crowd was going crazy at 113. The duel was already decided, Steve, but Michael Pazorski beat Tim Madia 6-5 at 113. Muskego did score a win with JT Brandstatter at 132. But again, Kaukauna giving up 10 points in the first 2 duels. Just absolutely impressive.
It was very impressive. Taking a look at Muskego, Teague, as far as who they have coming back. They only lose 2 wrestlers from a state qualifying team. 8 state qualifiers coming back, 7 seniors and 6 juniors for next year. Another program, obviously, most likely they can get the result they want in that first round, but be looking for them to make another return trip for next year.
Then Marshfield versus Bayport. Again, another duel for Marshfield where, Steve, it was crazy seeing the atmosphere of that. Like, the crowd was almost absolutely silent. Absolutely silent until the duel was clinched. And then once it did get clinched, it's like you felt just a huge weight lifted off the entirety of Marshfield's chest, making the team state finals for the first time ever. They beat Bayport 43-25. The dual score, let me rack up the math here quick. They were up 31-3 after 8 matches. I think that they must have won the toss because they were able to not have the Blaskowski Ward match at 150. So the duel started at 152, which I don't think would have benefited Marshfield, but when they won the toss, that helped them out big time. Bayport, one thing I wonder if they send out Ward maybe at 52, do they get a little, like, some points on their side right away and some momentum going? We won't know, but I just think ultimately, too, Steve, it comes down to it doesn't fall on that decision. Marshfield just really showed how good their team was. Aiden Bruckner did get the Pirates on the board with the sudden victory win at 195, but then Marshfield picked up 3 decisions after that to give them that 28-point lead.
Yeah, I really liked Bruckner coming out there and kind of stopping the bleeding as we talked about. But I think it's all match type situations, right? Did Alex? I think you and I were talking about the commentary. Did Alex Warren put too much pressure on himself, feeling like he's got to turn this thing around big time and get the pin? Who knows, right? I think Tevin Montgomery did a good job for Bayport filling in. But not having Vaughn Campbell in their lineup really hurt as well, Teague. But, nice to see Bayport get that win. And I just thought it was appropriate, getting to see Jacob Ward wrestle his last match, and he was the last match for the team. It was almost kind of you could feel the emotion, right? Everyone just knew it was the last high school match of a kid with a great career, and I just found it very fitting that he was able to get the fall for his team, even though they lost, but kind of fell to his knees a little bit, looked up, and you could just see the emotion. It was, congratulations to Marshfield for making it, but it was also congratulations to Jacob Ward on a great career as well.
And the Pirates, now 3 trips to Team State, have won a duel in all 3 of them. So props to them for that consistency. And, Mr. Ward, got to give a shout out to him as another beneficiary of the Dippin' Dots. And the Ward family, just a great family. Glad we've been able to cover them the last few years. And Steve, that brings us to
Teague, how many did you get? Teague, hold on. How many sets of Dippin' Dots did you get this weekend? Did you get 4?
I think it was 5.
5. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. That's impressive.
And Steve, the last duel here, Kaukauna 41, Marshfield 26. And it was actually tied going into the last 3 matches, Steve. This is actually the one that we didn't commentate on. But
I know.
It was one of those where it was tied, but also Kaukauna with what they had finishing with 3 place winners. You kind of knew it was going to go the Ghost way at that point. But also, even starting off at 220, Jordan Luce beating James Clements and Ben Kruger beating Adrian Kruger in sudden victory at that. That was one of those where I think it was must win for Marshfield. So even though a lot could have happened in those last 12 matches, those were ones that the Tigers definitely needed.
Yeah, I agree, Teague. I don't really have anything to add to that. You and I were talking about it after 2 swing matches right away in the beginning. They just need it, and Kaukana's a good team, man.
Yeah, I think it proved 2 things, and we'll talk more about this duel when we have Jeff Mochik on, because there was a little bumping around in this, as you see Crook, Hammond, and Wenzicki all went 70-95, but I guess a couple of observations. Hoyt Blaskowski versus Brady Sprangers. Brady Sprangers got the first takedown in that match, Steve. He was kind of that reserve we talk about. Kaukauna bumped and they got him in the lineup, where don't be surprised to see him on the podium in a few years. And also fitting to see Blaskowski end a pin-heavy career with a pin.
Mm-hmm.
Kaukauna, everyone kind of talked about how it was their division to lose, their team state title to lose, and they proved that. Marshfield also proved that there could have been a path to victory for them. It's so hard to execute against Kaukauna at this level. So props to both teams on a great season. Congratulations to Kaukauna on their three-peat, Steve.
Three-peat, yeah. And in there, just a couple matches I really liked. And I liked them because, the match was pretty much over. But watching Judah Hammond and Owen Griesbach, impressive sophomore. I thought that was a impressive win by Hammond over a very tough Griesbach. And obviously watching Kirk move up a couple weight class and Tech fall a very large young man was a good win as well. Teague, Kaukauna is losing 12 kids on their program this year, but it's like, I think 2 years ago we were all not worried, but we were talking about, after their championship, Kaukauna doesn't have a lot coming back, and they just find a way to replace it through their middle school and obviously their JV. And Teague, if you got the lineups up, I just kind of found this pretty funny, is that Kaukauna has a Judah Hammond on their team and Marshfield has a Judah Herman on their team. So it would have been kind of neat. Judah Herman is 160 pounds and Judah Hammond's 170 pounds. So that would have been kind of neat if those two would have wrestled each other. It would have been some tongue twisters going on.
The Hammond-Herman hypothetical match, just like what was the Badger Conference?
Switzer-Schweitzer match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Switzer-Schweitzer. I can't remember. One was Monona Grove and where was the other?
It was Gunther of Monona Grove and Jack of Wanakee.
Yep, Switzer-Schweitzer.
All right, Steve, Division 2 action. Luxembourg Casco versus Evansville. Luxembourg won this one at 63-9. Evansville, Steve, actually was leading after 4 matches. They were up 9-7. This was one of those duels. I know even Caleb Salentine getting a 10-4 win over Tucker Peterson. That was big for Luxembourg. The duel, you think in the big picture, it was never totally in doubt. But Evansville, they came to wrestle, man, and it was a fun duel for a few matches. And Steve, I think one match might have overshadowed just the entirety of the duel. I think you know which one I'm talking about. You don't get a lot of state title rematches at Team State, but we got one of this weekend, and Easton Warachek avenging his finals loss, beating Danny Heiser 7-4. And I think aside from when they actually clinched the title, I think that was the most pumped that I saw the Luxembourg Casco fan base this weekend.
Yeah, they know the situation. To me, Teague, I think if you have these guys wrestle each other 10 times on a neutral platform, I think each one of them wins 5, right? I think it goes 50-50, but you throw in some huge team crowd being pumped up, momentum on the side, and the emotion that Warachek had was it was just neat to see those two state champions, right? Warachek winning as I believe as a sophomore, and Heiser obviously the last 2 years, and just two great wrestlers put on a show, and just congratulations to both of them, and in putting on a good show for everybody to watch, a match within the match.
All right, that brings us to Prairie du Chien versus Baldwin Woodville, the 2 versus the 3. So see, Prairie du Chien won this one 45-21. I think the spread was a little bigger than what was I trying to say there? Man, my brain just needs to catch up to my mouth a little bit. I think I had it as a 12-point duel, but Prairie du Chien and Baldwin, despite it being a 24-point duel, Steve, kind of like what we said, regardless of the score, there was a lot of fun and matches in there. How about Brogan Brewer of PDC bumping up to 195 for Team State? I'm guessing he weighed in at 182, but gets a win against Drew Stark to open the duel, gets Prairie du Chien on the board. Baldwin Woodville came firing back with 3 pins. It wasn't a bad starting spot. Also, Steve, this was a battle of the Blackhawks as I came to learn.
Oh yeah,
Because Baldwin Woodville,
That's
also
true.
the Blackhawks, they were winning 18-12 at one point. Then Prairie du Chien after 132. So Tyler Fink beat Ryder Koenig, and that put Baldwin up 21-18. That was the last match Baldwin would win. You bring in Rhett Koenig, kind of the momentum stopper. He got a major over Hunter Gartman. And then Prairie du Chien, just with their slew of state qualifiers and place winners, just went on a tear. And they, ran away with it at the end.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. You pretty much took all my notes, Steve. It was a great duel for a little while, but that's those last few wrestlers just coming down were just too much. Obviously, start with Rhett Koenig, and then Drew Hurd, Luke Kramer, all the way on down, and just closed out a beautiful semifinal win to the championship.
Had Miss Marnie Vandermaal was saying at just pumped for Easton, and then saying should have been named the wrestler of the year, which maybe still tough competition against my wrestler of the year, Coy Hopke, but that's a conversation for a different day. Moving on, Steve. It was the final that we kind of thought before the year these two teams were on a collision course, right? And you could have looked at it either way. Man, what a final duel. Luxembourg versus Prairie du Chien. The top two teams in Division II, I believe, all year. Luxembourg ends up winning 37-20, Steve. And there was 8 decisions in this duel. So, again, Luxembourg won by 17. I think really after 160 pounds, that's where it really looked like it was going to be in Luxembourg's favor. How about Ryan Ruthio, who I believe a senior, picking up it wasn't mathematically the clincher, but I think both teams kind of felt it. He picked up the 3-2 win over Jeremiah Avery. Steve, there's so many matches that we can talk about in this one. I mean, you talk about the decisions, how there was 8 matches that went the full 6, and Luxembourg won 7 of those 8. And that's ultimately what it came down to. I think Prairie du Chien, even in a couple of the matches where they weren't the favorites on paper, you could wrestle that duel 100 times over, and I think we see Prairie du Chien capture a couple of those, but it was just a gritty duel. Like that's basically what it was. Luxembourg came to wrestle. They won all the close ones. This one was fast right away, Steve. There was a pin or a tech in the first 4 matches, and it just seemed as the duel was going on, it was looking pretty hard pressed for Prairie du Chien to kind of stop the Spartans' momentum. Also, I did the commentary for this one, so this explains why I'm the most well-versed on this one. I talked about Luxembourg doing a bump, and they didn't do it in the spot I thought, but they bumped up Caleb Delabrew and Max Ronsman, 2 state place winners. Ronsman, of course, a champ the year prior. And Steve, they basically took the gamble there where, all right, let's give the 6 to Koenig, but how about Lawton Tank, who wrestled 1 varsity match and his second varsity match ever, went 3 minutes 13 seconds with the
Nice.
4-time champ. Give credit to the freshman there. But Steve, there was a gamble. I mean, at 45 and 52, obviously Delabrew and Ronsman really good wrestlers, but if you're gonna gamble on your guys, it's gonna be those two going up and wrestling guys that have some point in the career placed at state, and just huge wins for Delabrew and Ronsman at 45 and 52. Then Ruthio essentially putting the cherry on top with the duel. Trace Janebeck did clinch it with the win over Bryce Lenzendorf at 182, and yeah, that's what else do I have to say on this one? I mean, the 120 match, Steve, came down. There was 2 reversals in the last minute where Isaac Jarabic beat Mason Hurd 5-4. That was another big one. I mean, we could almost we got to do the play-by-play with Chaz Tremmel as to what was going on. But let me hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Chaz. It'd be nice to hear his thinking on those are moves that keep you up at night as a coach. Like, man, do I do it? Do I not? And obviously you look great if it works. If it doesn't, you got a lot of people to answer to. Teague, I don't have a lot to add. You were calling it. My head kept on going on over that way, but dual meets in wrestling, people don't realize that there's such a game of momentum, and Luxembourg's Casco winning 5 in a row from 106 to 132 is tough for anybody for anybody to overcome, especially when you're a team like Luxembourg Casco. And when Prairie du Chine's on the wrong end of 2 1-point matches, that's, like I said, it's just tough. But they've been at state for the last 4 years, and from what I know, they're not going anywhere for a while. Obviously, they're losing a lot of good wrestlers, but just like Luxembourg Casco, we'll talk about here in just a little bit, they're going to replace those guys and be challenging again next year.
And see, this is also one of those situations too. You get to cover so many guys where you're pumped for the winner, and then even like on the losing side, like how much stock Prairie du Chien had in the season, and just them being on my side of the state and being able to see them wrestle so many times. You know a lot of the kids. Mike Rogi's a great guy, and seeing their mat side once the duel was kind of decided, that one did hurt a little bit, but Mike Rogi has built a great program. I mean, that senior class has a lot to be proud of. They've been a part of the only 4 team state appearances in program history. And yeah, you're losing a lot of good seniors, but they also, just like Luxembourg, they had good performances at the middle school duels. I think Prairie du Chien, to get back to this point, they're gonna have to put in a lot of work. But also, don't be shocked to see them continually making appearances at the field house, or continually making appearances in the finals, or maybe even someday winning it. I think they're officially a reloading team, Steve.
Absolutely. And Teague, I know we'll talk a lot more about Luxembourg Casco, but I just can't help but notice, and something I think we brought up when Chaz Tremmel was on the show, is that Luxembourg Casco during the regular season is not afraid to go out and find losses. They come into the team state tournament and they're battle tested. I mean, I even went back to the early 90s, Teague, before you were born. I talked about a guy by the name of Mike Sellner, who came into the state tournament with 10 losses and made it to the finals. And I think it was 160 pounds where he did. But Teague, throw out Max Ronsman, who obviously was injured and had 12-2 record. And then Easton Warchek, right, who's just a beast, who's 47-6. So throw those two out. Listen to a common theme here when I was looking at Luxembourg's lineup. Jake Jandrin, 47-10. Michael Boswick, 40-13. Isaac Drobic, 41-13. Blakely Bastion, 44-11. Kilo Delabrew, 45-11. Ryan Ruthio, 34-16. Sam Schultz, state qualifier in 2022, 30-14. And then Trey Schoenebeck, 44-10. I mean, these are all state qualifiers. And what do you notice about all those guys, Teague?
Was it double-digit losses?
Double-digit losses. I mean, I was looking at their tournaments. They go to the Bi-State. They go to the Cheesehead. They go to the Christmas tourney. Their easy tournaments are the Pulaski tournament and the Battle in the Bay. Those are their weekends off, right? I mean, speaking tongue in cheek. So, they're a program. I think they go out and they seek to battle test their guys, and then it pays off when they get in the state tournament like this, and they're not afraid to make moves where, they take a guy at a certain weight class and move him up 1 or 2 to, take that gamble. To them, it's not a gamble because their guys are ready.
Steve, Division III action. You got to call D3 all day Saturday, so I'm excited to hear your take on this one. Fenimore versus Stratford. Fenimore wins at 55-13, and hey, Stratford, I said all their wins were going to be just decisions, but they did pick up a couple of bonus points at 106, and also got a pin at 170. Yeah, Steve, I mean, I think Fenimore just kind of showed their dominance again. I think I might have said this about them, Kaukauna, and Luxembourg in this podcast, but yeah, you see a lot of bonus points. You see a lot of wins for the Golden Eagles, and again, Stratford came to scrap, but it's just a very hard team to overcome.
Yeah, I don't know what you're looking for. I'm going to hear this one, Teague, but yeah, Fenimore is just too much. I mean, that's all I'll add. I know we're going to be talking more about them in a little bit, but I just say this: way to go, Stratford, on qualifying. I think I mentioned this in the preview. I text their coach Adam, and I was like, "Hey, sorry, because we overlooked you," and we really did. They lost a lot, and for them, I think it's as a coach, you can look back on the year and be really proud of what you did. Sometimes you can say, man, this team really overperformed. But I don't think it did for Stratford. Stratford, Coach Adam Davison said, he goes, man, I know we lost a lot, but we're Stratford. We have guys that are ready to step in and wrestle. And so I look at them. They're only losing 4 wrestlers, 4 good ones, but they're a very young team. They're freshmen and sophomore loaded. And I just expect them to it's Tiger style wrestling, right? I mean, that's what Adam talked about as well. They're going to replace those guys, and they're going to be ready to go next year. So nice job to Stratford on qualifying for Team State.
And Steve, last Division III semifinal, or the second one, Shiocton versus Cedar Grove, Belgium. This one just looked like a roller coaster, man. This was the one that had me kind of turning away from the D2 action for a little bit. But Shiocton did beat Cedar Grove, Belgium 42-25. And just take me through how that duel went.
Well, after 8 matches, it was 21-18, Teague. But, when you got Shu, Urban, and Demrath, Colton Shu, Dylan Urban, Brad Demrath, they pretty much just sealed the deal. Teague, it was a really good battle. Overall, Shiocton just wasn't going to be denied, right? Their first year at Team State, and coming home with some hardware, making it to the finals. Just shout out to them, and Cedar Grove as well, right? It was a great duel. I like the 182-pound match. And here's why I liked it. This was Joe Schroeder and Rizziel Sanchez. The match was already decided, right? I mean, I know this has nothing to do with as far as points go or where it was, but the duel was already decided, and these two guys were battling like it was coming down to them. I just I respected that about both of those wrestlers.
Yeah, Steve, a lot of decisions in this one, just counting looks like 6 of them were decisions, and not really a whole lot of matches that let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 of them were pinned.
I think it pretty much went the way we expected, Teague. I mean, yeah, to me, there wasn't a lot of upsets. I mean, when we were calling it beforehand, I think it was decided on the studs were going to win, and I don't think there was a lot of upsets in it.
I think a big win. I mean, just seeing 220 Elijah Sanchez beating Devin Sorens, I believe, ended up being a place winner for Cedar Grove, Belgium. That's a huge momentum win for Shiocton in the early going to the duel, but. Yeah, that leads us to the finals here, Steve.
Oh, T, before you go on, you got to give your boy a shout out one last time before we move on.
Oh, the beast of the Big East, the big
there
man, Diego Morales. I said hi
right
to
on.
him. He was zoned in right before the duel, but you know what? I got to talk to him. I was happy. And Steve, with Cedar Grove, Belgium, I think they're going to be a team that's going to be in the team sectional championship conversation for a while. We'll always have Rocket Power, and we'll always have the Cedar Grove hype video in our hearts.
Yeah, Teague, they're losing 7, including Diego and Hoopman. But as I was taking a look, overall, they're very young, but they have a lot of strong leaders returning.
Steve brings us to the final duel, which Fenimore beat Shiocton 43-18. And again, I was calling the action over on the D2 mat, so kind of just got a chance to take it in over the brackets, which is a little tougher to do. But Shiocton got a big win at 220 right away with Elijah Sanchez, who picked up a couple of big wins on Saturday. He beat Dalton Wolf 7-1. Steve, the thing that sticks out to me is, Shiocton's the team that we kind of viewed all year long, where they pulled out 6 wins against Fenimore, which I don't know. I was going to go back and look, but I forgot to. If someone wants to tell me if another team did that this year, you're hard pressed to find 6 wins against this lineup.
Yep.
But with those 6 wins, Steve, no bonus points involved. And out of the possible 48 points that Fenimore could have scored with their 8 wins, they got, you don't include the unsportsmanlike, they got 44 of those. So it's one of those where even if you find a way, this could have been 8-6 in Shiocton's favor, and Fenimore still would have won, just because they have so many guys that can get bonus points. And I think that was a good matchup for Shiocton to get 6 wins against them. But again, this was Fenimore's team state race to lose all year, Steve, and I think they proved it.
Teague, you stole notes there. Shackton did get those 3 wins, but all just regular decision. And that's kind of the strength of Fenimore, is that good teams know how to, one, get bonus points and know how to not give up bonus points. There's 2 parts of that, right? And Fenimore, they're just machines on top. They go from a bar arm to a half to a cross. They are just constantly like jackhammers working on top, and that starts to weigh on kids. Especially when those second and third periods come. So shout out to Fenimore and what they did this past weekend. My match of the day, Teague, it happened early on. I think it was the third match. Mason Demarath of Shackton and Cade Birchman of Fenimore. It was only a 4-1 score, but those 2 young men were flying all over the mat. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Steve, before we just kind of wrap up the year and talk about us a little bit, just got Jason McGill of Ray hopping in. Crashed out on his couch right now, and he's just glad he gets to hear us talk some wrestling. He just says, Steve, why do you look so serious right now? Which, I don't know. Serious Steve the Stilts. Hey, we got a couple angles we can work with. But also David Morales hopping in. Just saying the barn is a great atmosphere. And out of all the comments you get on Team State weekend, Steve, I think that's the one that you hear the most or you talk about the most is just that atmosphere at the field house.
Second to none.
Yeah, that's what wow, this was a quick one. I don't know if I should apologize or not, but I think
tell some jokes or something.
A couple things that I think I forgot to mention throughout, but just some notes that I thought about. Reedsburg, Steve, I think that was a duel that at the end of it, I realized, wow, we shouldn't have thought that Reedsburg was the underdogs. Yep. Then Marshfield, just again, how serious they were, or just seeing how, they weren't going to be satisfied until they made the finals. That was another thing that stuck out to me. Baldwin Woodville, I forgot to mention this, but just them making it, Steve, after having so many good teams, and whether it be Ellsworth or Amory or GET, to see Baldwin make it, they're just doing all the right things up there. That was just that was a moment I was really happy for. With Prairie du Chien, one individual specifically that I forgot to mention was Maddox Shaka, who was injured most of the year. He wrestled 5 matches, and then he had a pretty bad injury. To see him, a senior who we've had some interactions with throughout the year, that was one of my favorite moments. And I know he didn't win his last match, but Steve, for him to get a chance to compete with his team one more time in the field house, that just absolutely made my weekend. There's a lot of guys. You saw some seniors who maybe weren't varsity guys that got to wrestle in the field house. And yeah, that's just kind of some other notes I kind of forgot along the way. My brain is kind of mush, Steve. It's been a long few weeks.
Well, no, a couple things, Steve. I didn't quite realize we were going to end it with there. I just want to say too, Shiocton, very young team. I definitely, obviously, Fenimore loses 6, but they're scary what they bring back. So I mean, I can call my shot now, obviously, but I have a feeling we're going to see a Fenimore Shiocton rematch next year. Obviously, Luxembourg Casco, we talked about what they bring back too. But Teague, I just made a note as I was talking. I kept giving the swan call to different wrestlers. Grayson Clark. It just kind of hits you when you start looking and realizing it's not as emotional because he just won. But man, that's the last time I'm going to see Grayson Clark on a high school mat. Oh, Rhett Koenig, that's the last time I'm going to get to see him. Easton Warchek, all these different seniors, Jacob Ward, all these different seniors that we've been following the last 3-4 years, Teague, as they walk off the mat, you're trying to call a match, but you get choked up a little bit. Like, man, those guys are moving on. And there's so much emotion to this time of the year, obviously with last week and this week. And I just appreciate what these coaches and what these wrestlers do for the sport. And it's just, it's sad, but it's a great time as well. You're just blessed to be able to watch them.
Well, you always say, Steve, or I always like to think that if you're sad about something, it's because it gave you a reason to be happy. It gave you so many moments of happiness in the first place. And Steve, I think that's a great transition into just talking about us and where we're at. And man, I'm done with our third year of the We had 1 year of the BS era, the before Steve era. We're on year 4, but now we're kind of at the point now where I think that's why it was hard seeing a lot of these seniors wrestle their last matches. Even seeing Hoyt end his career and
yes, Hoyt.
having covered him and talked to him, seen so many Marshfield stuff for 4 years. That was kind of
Neon Dion, right? We talk about him as well.
One of your first nicknames. Yeah,
That's right.
It's now that we're 4 years in, and I know it's weird because we're not coaches, right? We're members of the media, but you put so much into it and researching and interacting with these guys that you almost do weirdly feel a connection. So
yep.
For these last few weeks, definitely they were different. But and let me tell you, it's a very tiring time of year, but I would not trade the experience for anything in the world. I mean, I just got to say, everybody, now that we're 4 years in, sometimes it's tough. Like the rewarding moments definitely make this worth doing, and ultimately it's about giving the attention to the kids. Steve, I think this year had the most rewarding moments ever for the show, and really it's a lot of the answering, like, okay, why do we do this? This is why we do this. Yeah. And I just got to think, like, we merged with WI Wrestle. That was a really awesome thing. I'm glad people were excited about that. We're excited to keep working with Nate and Jake, and just the ideas that they give us, what we can do to help them out too. I thought them reaching out to us was absolutely awesome, and shows that our work is paying off. Or I even think about, as weird as it is, like the Dippin' Dots. Like, that's kind of a funny thing, but that's also like, people know that I love that, and they
sure.
And like them doing that for me, it does mean a lot to me.
I got an idea. I think you were going the Dippin' Dots. I was thinking like my thing would be gold bars. People could start giving me gold bars. I think that'd be a good one.
Like the currency gold bars.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that wasn't funny.
Steve also likes burgers, everybody, but
I do like my hamburgers. Yeah.
We got 60 every time we want to go somewhere during a state series. He's all about, he's like, hey, let's go to a burger spot. And I finally picked up on it after this year.
See, the hard part is I always want to get something else. I'm looking at the wraps, or I'm looking at the loaded nachos. I'm looking, and they all look so good, but my mind then sometimes I stretch, I get something else, and then I don't like it. I'm like, darn it, I should have stick with my burger.
Oh man, Steve, we had 61 episodes this season. The new season starts when we start our state champion coaches and 4-timer interviews. This is the last episode of the season. We got 61, so that's 2 more than last year. We hit that 60 mark in a year, which is fun. We're gonna hit our 200 episode mark next season at some point. I'm guessing it'll be sometime in the fall or winter. And folks, I can't appreciate you enough for all the support over the 4 years and just dealing with us as we've kept improving and talked about wrestling. But we're gonna hit 100,000 downloads at some point. We're at 94,000 right now, and that's all thanks to you. It's all thanks to the listeners. I just can't put into words like how grateful I am for everybody, whether it be merch or Dippin' Dots or listens or messaging with us on like social media. It makes this whole experience fun. It makes me glad that a young 25-year-old Teague decided to do this thing. And I was really scared, and I was really bad at it to start. And Steve, I also gotta thank. I make sure to mention this every time at this point in the year. There might not be a Wisconsin Wrestler podcast without you, man. I didn't know if I was going to keep doing it, and when we got you on and your energy and your leadership and motivation, you helped get me through a lot of tough times in the moments where I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I got to thank you for being along with me for the ride.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Right. I don't know what to say. It's to say it right back at you, man. I appreciate it.
But folks, thanks once again to Steve, everyone listening, to all the wrestlers and coaches that made this another great wrestling season. Schedule-wise, I know Dominating the Dells is this weekend, so that could be some fun action if you want to go watch that. I'm sure Nate and Jake, they're really good at covering freestyle Greco stuff. We'll maybe try to get into that a little more. We'll see. But otherwise, I think we're going to try to do more interviews and stuff with the summer. I know the Justin Foley interview people really liked. So maybe we'll do more time capsule stuff with those wrestlers. But upcoming schedule, we plan on having all the 4-time state champion wrestlers on, all the team state coaches on. So we'll be doing that. We are going to take a week off just to let our brains unmush a little bit from the last couple of weeks. So in 2 weeks, expect us to be live again. Yeah, that's what I got. Steve, you got any closers?
I got nothing, man. I appreciate it. Right, Teague. I should have said this before too. You caught me. I was a little bit choked up, but man, you're awesome. You're what you do for this and for wrestling. It's truly amazing. So, and I know people appreciate you, and you're doing good work. That's why people are taking jabs at you with the moldy potato and the vagrant Teague or whatever it is.
The vagrant Teague. I love it. Well, Steve, like I say before every episode, I guess in regards to rolling through this next year, let's give it the old college try.
That's right, man.
Folks, that's what we got for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Going to have our first 4-time state champ on in a couple of weeks here. We'll get through that series, and then we'll figure out, Podium Winner Palooza, Ultimate Team State in the summer. We run through hypothetical tournaments and duels. It's a great time, but stay tuned. We have lots of fun stuff. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you on the flip side.